So good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Paul Healey. I'm the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Principals Association. I want to thank you once again for joining our Thursday webinars. I think this is our third one now that we've conducted during the COVID-19 situation. I want to remind everyone that we are providing daily FAQ updates on our website at paprincipals.org. That's a great resource. Those FAQs are being written in conjunction with all the other educational organizations. We have a daily call at 10 o'clock every single day where all the execs from all the ed organizations are getting together to talk about the questions that are coming in from our members from the field, and then we write responses to that. So that is your best resource right now to continue to visit our website very, very often. Today, I really want to talk about continuity of education. And as you know, this has been a moving target. I was saying to our panelists before, this is building the plane in the air right now. And I know you're all struggling with that. We know how to do instruction in our environment. Now that we push that out remotely, it's caused some challenges for many of us as well. Now, certainly, as you know, with the indefinite school closure, many schools need to ramp up and provide some type of instruction to students while they're out. And we certainly don't know how long that's going to be. Wishful thinking would be the end of the month, but as we're seeing the numbers and cases grow in Pennsylvania, I think we're all realizing that we may not be hitting that target. That's not fact, that's just my personal opinion right now as well. So first, before I introduce our panelists today, that they're going to share what their schools and districts are doing in reference to pushing on instruction to students, I want to just go over continuity of education one more time and some of the resources that PDE just put out. So the first thing is that PDE is now offering, if you haven't seen this, it's on our website as well, some free licensing for some online platforms right now. Those are Odysseyware and Edgenuity. Those platforms are for K-5 and 6-12. And there are resources for English, language arts, math, science, and basically all of the other areas. To take advantage of those resources, your school and or district would have to contact your local IU. There's a form to fill out asking how many licenses you need. So you have to go through your local IU for that. The second thing that's going to happen very, very soon is equity grants. PDE has put $5 million as a set aside for schools to purchase equipment, laptops, tablets, internet hotspots, and or instructional materials. Priority will be given to those schools with the highest percentage of students that are lacking access. Don't ask me how they're going to determine that. I don't know that yet. I don't know if that's survey data that you already have in your district or now, who has access or who doesn't. But I know it's a very short grant window. It's going to open on April the 6th and close on April the 10th. So just so you're aware of that, I'm sure your superintendent and your schools know that, but you need to be aware of that if you're hearing that from parents about internet hotspots or laptops or whatever, this may be a way to get in a little bit of money for your district to roll out some more equipment for your students. And then finally, the third thing they rolled out is PDE has partnered with local public television stations to provide some instructional programming as well. So that will be coming. So then again, that's just another avenue for schools to avail themselves of some level of instruction for students. And when we talk about the whole issue of continuity of education, as you know from the graphic that I even showed last week, there is the issue of whether you're doing review and enrichment and or planned instruction. So kind of keep that in mind. I will say one of the questions we have on the continuity of education, can you provide both things? So for example, can the elementary school do enrichment and review, and could the high school do planned instruction? The answer to that is yes, you can do a mixture of that. What you are not allowed to do is to do a mixture in a particular grade level. So you can't take your 7th grade students and say, part of them are getting plan instruction, but my math kids in 7th grade are only going to get enrichment in review. You cannot do that. It has to be over the same, there has to be the same thing over the same grade level. So with that, we have 4 great principals that decided to come online today to help me out today to explain what they're doing with continuity of education. So we have an elementary principal, a middle school principal, and 2 high school principals. And what I've asked them to do this morning is just to take about 5 to 7 minutes to introduce themselves, their school, and what their current plans are for continuity of education. And then when we're all through with those 4 individuals talking, then we're going to open it up to questions. So I'd ask you to hold your questions for right now. And if you have questions, put them in the chat room. And then when we're done, we'll open them up and these fine gentlemen can explain those. So first up, from Mid-Valley School District, elementary principal Brian Kelly. So Brian, I'll turn it over to you. Can you unmute him? Oh,
good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you, Dr. Healey. Before I start, I just wanted to wish all of you safety and hope you're doing well in your communities. Like Dr. Healey stated, my name is Brian Kelly. I'm the East 1 elementary representative for the Pennsylvania Principals Association for the past 2 years. And I'm the elementary principal, K through 6 building, 1,040 students. Total district student population is roughly 1,850 students. We are a suburban school right outside of Scranton in northeastern Pennsylvania. Our free and reduced numbers are roughly between 50 and 60%. We're over 50%. So just to kind of give you an idea who we are. In the next few minutes, I just hope to tell you a little bit about that week of March 9th, and we all kind of found out closure was happening March 13th, our current continuity plan, and then what our next phase is, which we're finalizing as we speak. We hope to do that before this weekend. And then hopefully the things we did right and some things we would, looking back that, wow, we wish we did that different. So first, that week of March 9th, when we dismissed on, I believe it was Friday the 13th, that was a wild week. Some things I'm proud of looking back. We were able to collaborate with our teachers in the entire district, and all students that were in attendance on Friday, March 13th, left our district with an educational enrichment and review packet. We are about 8 square miles. It's very easy to get to most of our houses. And we've at that time really felt paper pencil was the best way to go. And we were proud of that. The students that were not in attendance that day did receive a packet via mail. So I thought that was very proactive. And we also looked at our students. We have a lot of students, like many of you, that take medication and rely on that during the school day. So we successfully contacted and had many of our parents show up on that Friday the 13th and get that so they could administer that at home. So that's one thing if you haven't thought about yet. A lot of our children rely on that, and we were just proud of that. So there were some celebrations. Of course, none of us like what's going on here. So we did, after this happened, went into our development of a continuity plan for our district. And our continuity plan looks something like this, if you could see the screen here. And so we had broken it down into a brief summary up top, how we communicate and support our families and students in the district. So we just wanted to again reiterate that we check emails daily and we're available. We again were very proud of the educational resource packets versus initially just going right online. And there was just a brief summary there, and how teacher-student communication was to happen. We use many different platforms. Our student information system is highly used, which is listed there. We also use things like Class Dojo, Remind, etc. And then we did offer food distribution for all families from 10 to 12, which consisted of breakfast and lunch daily, Monday through Friday. So that was our initial plan, which takes us pretty much up till today. However, most recently we found that we went to a school closure, indefinite school closure, which we interpreted very similar to Dr. Healey as at minimum through April. And so with that said, we have now began the discussion and with our teachers of transitioning from enrichment and review from the packets to enrichment and review through Google Classroom or an online platform. So that's what our next continuity plan is going to look like. Since March 13th, that initial day when we released our students with enrichment and review packets, this week we also had parents come and pick up our second version of that packet. So that would give them 2 more weeks of work, which will lead us right up to right around April 13th, and then we'll transition to Google Classroom. Before I end, I just want to say we have, I think many of you are with us on, we are still continuing to enrich and review, even though we're going from really physical packets to uploading activities and packets to Google Classroom. So I want to thank Dr. Healey again. And if anybody has any questions, we'll follow Dr. Healey's lead. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Brian. That's a great overview. Really appreciate it. So next up, our middle school representative is Rob Farina. He's in Brandywine Heights. He's in an intermediate middle school, so I'll let him tell you about that. So, Rob?
Thank you, Dr. Healey. And just to echo Mr. Kelly and Dr. Healey, hope everyone is doing well, staying healthy, staying safe, finding some time to balance in between Zoom meetings and all of the other things that are going on, and staying healthy as we go on. So a little bit about our district, as Dr. Healey said. I am the East 2 regional representative. Brandywine Heights is about a 1,400 student rural school district. We're right between Reading and Allentown. We're about 5 minutes from Kutztown University. We are larger in demographic, the size of we're about 60 to 80 square miles, but again, servicing about 1,400 students. We have 3 schools in our district, a K to 3 elementary, a 4 to 8 intermediate middle, which is 2 schools in 1 building, and then a 9 to 12 high school. We are a 1-to-1 school district, so that has had some benefits for us as we're unrolling this plan. We're about a 40% free and reduced population, and we are about 22 to 23% of our students are identified through the special education process. So we are higher than the state average there. And as I think we're all looking through this, that does present a lot of challenges from a continuity of education standpoint. But if I'm going to share my screen as well, just kind of talk through how we broke this down at the district level and then at the school level, because I think there's a ton of planning, a ton of preparation that goes into this, and the more we can do to chunk that and kind of get that into sound bites for folks and really target that is the better. So just to share with you my screen and kind of our thought process through this is we're looking at this, if everyone can see my screen. Our goals for distance learning are 4 goals. We don't want to overwhelm students. We want to be supportive. We want to be communicative, and we want to educate. So if we go back to March 13th up until yesterday, April 1st, we were doing enrichment and review. We were, again, able to get medications out. We were able to get devices out to families who didn't have their devices. And through our Google Classroom platform, students were completing enrichment activities. We made the decision last week, on Monday of last week, that we would be doing new planned instruction beginning yesterday, April 1st. So from last Monday until yesterday, we really worked together as a K-12 team, but also within our buildings with the teachers to work on what new online learning would look like. When we rolled that out to parents, at my building level, we rolled it out really following these 4 goals. We wanted to not overwhelm the family, support, communicate, and then lastly, educate. So just kind of what that looks like from a nuts and bolts standpoint is understanding your demographics. Again, as I said, knowing our special education population, our special ed teachers did a phenomenal job reaching out via phone, via Zoom to every student on their caseload. They spoke with all of those parents just to see what the needs were, outside of the basic needs of food and medication and things like that, but to make education work. So we understood what those needs were. We did continue to hold IEP meetings through Zoom. And again, your scheduled IEP meetings, but also, hey, when we go down the route of new learning, what that's going to look like for your child. Also, we thought, how we're going to work within our limitations and expectations. Our superintendent did a phenomenal job outlining to parents that online learning is going to be an hour and a half at the elementary level, 2 hours at the intermediate level, 2.5 at the middle level, and 3 hours at the high school level. So our goal is that students in my building are spending no more than 2 to 2.5 hours a day working on activities. And that really helped our teachers plan. And again, working within our existing structures. I know some folks have had some challenges with Schoology. We're a Google Classroom school, again, being one-to-one. So our teachers have really been leveraging Google Classroom. And one of the things, just to show everyone, we use a simple shared Excel as our homework page in grades 4 through 8. And we repurposed that for this, that teachers are now putting their online learning activities on this site. So when we shared with parents, we said, you're all familiar with the homework page. We're going to continue to use the homework page, but this is where we're going to be posting your activities. We posted it this way purposefully because it gives the students a suggested timeline on how they want to complete their work. So again, if you're a 7th grader, you want to work on these activities on one day, these activities on the other. We're using Friday as a catch-up and enrichment day. We are not doing new instruction on a Friday. That's going to be a day for students to catch up. If you're a student in Title I or intervention or TAG, which is a gifted program in the younger grades, you have that day to work on those as well. And especially when we look at PA code at the middle level, your electives and your encores and your specials classes, those are all more exposure-based. So we made the decision that we're going to allow students to choose whatever elective they want to work on one elective per day. And our elective teachers created a choice board and said to the students, whatever you're interested in, jump on, enjoy it. You want to do 4 days of gym, do 4 days of gym. We want to provide for you exposure. So that's one area that we are doing that. So going back to this with being supportive, we've set up virtual office hours. Each teacher has office hours 10 to 2, Monday to Thursday, 12 to 2 on Friday. This, I think, is something to really think about. Please, if you're going to have these virtual
I think we just lost
hours, Zoom, am I back?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out right now, Rob.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're good now.
Good now? Okay, sorry about that. So with the virtual office hours, we had our teachers put an away message up. So when a student emails, it says, thank you for your email. I'll get back to you soon with a solution for your issue. That's when the teacher reaches back out and says, here's the code to my Zoom classroom. You can meet me here at this time. That way it's a little more structured. And again, working in that existing structure of things like Google Classroom. From a communication lens, I hate email. I like to talk to people face to face, but I'm emailing staff every day because as we're going through this, we're seeing, hey, this is a challenge students had. Here's a way we can solve this. So we're doing a lot of that updating through staff. I'm communicating with families at least twice a week just to kind of see where everyone is going, a message for the students, and here are some updates with online learning. And again, it's accepting feedback. We heard from a number of our neighboring districts that they had, all right, I think this is a 30-minute lesson, and then ended up taking the kids an hour to do it. So we have to be really flexible with that. So if we're hearing from families, and this took way too long, we have to accept that and really look at trailing back. And I basically said to our families, our staff, and our kids that if we can not overwhelm you, we can support you, we can communicate with you, then we'll be able to educate you. So I really don't feel like we're going to be able to educate students unless we're doing those first 3 things. And my last thing before I turn everything back over is for my staff, just to kind of get their heads right to think about what we want this to do. We established just a simple kind of jokey hashtag that we're saying hashtag meat and potatoes. That's what we want our online instruction to look like. This is not the time to be crazy and innovative in instruction. This is a time to help students and families feel safe, feel supported, and not overwhelmed. So when you're thinking about planning that online lesson, what's a good, simple way that you can deliver this that a student who is not able to work with a parent is able to digest? And that's one of the last kind of demographics for our district is about 70% of our parents work for DECA Batteries, and DECA Batteries is considered an essential employer. So all of our parents are working. We have a lot of kids K to 12 who are home alone. So we know that this really has to be a meat and potatoes lesson for them because they don't necessarily have that help for them. Mm-hmm. So as I said, we're in day 2. We had about anywhere from 70 to 90% participation from our kids yesterday. We're looking at grading from a pass-fail standpoint. And from an attendance standpoint, we're looking at it as, has a child logged in? Are they working on their assignments? We're not counting completion of the assignments for assessment, or for attendance. Because if you think about it, if a kid comes to school and they do no work for the day in the building, they still get marked as attending school. So that's going to count towards attendance. But, we're going to be working with that family to say, hey, we need to get some of these assignments. So that's ultimately what I have. Like I said before, I think everybody's doing a phenomenal job as you're building your planes while they're in the air. So, keep up doing what you're doing, and we're here to answer any questions you have.
Thanks so much, Rob. That was a great overview. I knew the part, and you've already answered the question about grading and collecting assignments and things like that, and how you're doing that going forward. So that piece is very, very helpful, because I've gotten that question more than any other right now about continuity of education. What are we doing about grading assignments as well? Okay, next up from Cambria Heights, high school principal Ken Krasinski. Ken, we're going to unmute you here first. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
All right, thank you to Dr. Healey and the other panelists. I already jotted down some ideas, and I'll be curious to see what Scott has to say, because high schools do face some unique challenges. I'm the principal at Cambria Heights High School in Patton, Pennsylvania, a rural area in Cambria County. 450 students in my building in grades 9 through 12, and we're a district of approximately 1,300 students. We had, like others, early on March 13th, the last day we were in school, we and many of the schools in Cambria County had decided that if the governor did not shut the schools down, we were going to use flexible instructional days the following week anyway, because we were starting to get some phone calls from parents and community members who were concerned seeing what had happened in Maryland and Ohio, closing down the schools the day before. So we were prepared to start our online instruction. Then when we got the notification around 2:30 on Friday that all schools in Pennsylvania were going to be closed, we decided then we wouldn't do anything during that next week, and we would wait to get further direction from PDE. So we have started our online instruction this week on Monday. So we're currently in our 4th day, but our teachers were prepared for it and our students were prepared for this. We are going ahead with planned instruction for several reasons, one of which is we have dual enrollment agreements with 3 local universities, Penn Highlands Community College, St. Francis, and Mount Aloysius, and we want to do whatever is possible so that our students are still able to earn those college credits, and that would be, they would have a college transcript if they've chosen to purchase those credits. We're also involved in Amazon's Future Engineering program through Adhesive, their computer science principles course, and we wanted to allow students to be able to continue that because we're one of the pilot schools. So for a number of reasons, those included, we've chosen to go ahead with planned instruction. About 95% of our students are doing the instruction online, although district-wide, we've had to provide about 400 students with Chromebooks. We're not one-to-one yet. We were going one-to-one next school year, so we've had to kind of start that a marking period ahead of time. The other 5% of the students at the high school level are getting packets of information. So as teachers are preparing their online instruction, they're notifying me of what I can provide to students through packets. And then primarily I'm delivering those to the students in our district, although we have some who are coming to the schools and picking those up. We're using a variety of resources. I told the teachers, don't use anything you're not familiar with to some extent. It's a good time to experiment and to expand your familiarity, but don't try to implement something brand new that you're not familiar with and your students aren't familiar with. We found that anything that's compatible with Google Classrooms has been great. So some of our resources include Flipgrid. It has that nice creativity component. Newsela, which allows you to level your, your instruction. Commonlit.org has some great resources for students with special needs. Some of the resources we've been using all year, like Get More Math, we were able to implement those very easily at home. The Khan Academy has been great as well. And we've had our teachers using Zoom as needed with the students. So what I've asked them to do is we've created a schedule so that we don't have 3 or 4 teachers in the same grade level all expecting their students to be on Zoom at the same time. I've also told them to please, to the extent possible, make that optional. We do have a lot of students who are babysitting or taking care of younger siblings at this time, and also a lot who have picked up hours working at local grocery stores especially. So they're working during the day and they're coming home and doing their assignments at night. And we've said that's fine as long as you're submitting your assignments by their due dates. We aren't going to mark you as not having attended. Another thing I've asked the teachers to do is don't make an assignment due every day. If you give an assignment on Monday, maybe have a Wednesday or Thursday due date. If you give an assignment on Tuesday, make it due on Thursday or Friday so that students have a little bit of flexibility and don't have to connect every night if they're not able, if they're sharing devices or connectivity with other siblings as well. Some of the issues that other other people have brought up, particularly high school principals, we are going to get board approval, but we're looking at going to pass-fail grading for the 4th marking period and only having marking periods 1 through 3 count towards the student's GPA and class rank. And then somehow when these, when these students go on to college and we're submitting their transcripts, putting some type of notice in that transcript that that's how the 4th marking period of 2020 was determined, or the whole 2019-2020 school year actually was counted on. We're also going to apply for those equity grants, and we have an added challenge that we're currently undergoing a renovation. So it is ongoing during the school year, but a bulk of the work was going to be done to our science wing of our building this summer. And with everything being held up right now, we're not sure if they're going to be where they need to be able to start that in the summer. So this is throwing our renovation into flux as well. And I welcome any questions that anybody has after Mr. Richardson presents.
Okay, thanks so much, Ken. Really appreciate it. And our next high school principal from Palmyra Area School District, Scott Richardson. Hi, Scott. I'm going to unmute you here. There you go.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for pulling this together. I think that, if nothing else, it really emphasizes the importance of professional relationships that we have. The PA Principals Organization has been invaluable in helping us kind of navigate these uncharted waters. So I'm the high school principal at Palmyra Area High School. We are located right between Hershey and Lebanon in the central part of the state. We are a school district of about 3,500 students, 1,200 students in my high school 9 through 12. And we are a rapidly increasing school district. We seem to be we have a great real estate taxes. We have a really strong community. We have a lot of folks who are moving into our school. And in fact, our population is one of the most rapidly increasing school district populations across the state. So we are gaining a lot of students. The other point that I want to make is, I know all of our fellow administrators are just feel very blessed with our teaching staff and what we're asking our teaching staffs to do right now. And I'm sure Ken, Brian, and Robert will agree that our staffs have just really stepped up, and it just speaks to, quality of teaching and teachers willing to take a risk. I wouldn't want to be in this boat with anybody else other than my staff. So going back to March 13th, we had the benefit of that day being a in-service day for us. So we had the theme in our high school this year is differentiation. So I had created a differentiated in-service for that day, and our teachers were going out to businesses, going to colleges and universities. They kind of self-directed their in-service. Upon hearing the news of the potential school shutdowns, we pulled everybody back that day and we began our planning. So this is our second year of one-to-one environment. We are MacBooks and Schoology based. So we have been working really hard over the course of the last 2 years. In fact, last year, our entire PD plan was all around Schoology. So we felt that we were pretty well poised to shift to an online platform. Certainly there are some, teachers and content that are, a little less Schoology friendly. So our math department was a little bit far behind. So we utilized that day and gave our teachers a couple of directions. One, prepared 2 days of kind of emergency lessons. Just create 2 days of enrichment, review, focus on skills that have already been taught. Give yourselves 2 days of planning for if and when we go live. You have 2 days to kind of continue then to plan. We also had an in-service day on the 16th, and then our staff and our district had off the week of the 16th. That at the 16th to the 20th, there was no school, there were no expectations for staff. Then beginning on March 23rd, we then had all of our staff, that was a planning week for our staff to get ready to launch on March 30th. So we held multiple Zoom training sessions. We have some tech integrators and facilitators who've done a phenomenal job, just Zoom meetings, people trying to get skills up in a lot of different content areas, as well as give our departments time to get together to meet, to be prepared to go March 30th. Now, we had a lot of discussions in our district because I was not a fan at a high school level of just going with enrichment review. I really was going to struggle to see how I was going to rah-rah 1,200 teenagers to continue to log in each day and stay engaged in learning. So we are in a planned instruction because, as Ken indicated earlier, with having your dual enrollment courses, your college and the high school, we are obligated to follow their lead, as those students, not only are they Palmyra High School students, they are also Harrisburg Area Community College or Harrisburg University or Lebanon Valley or E-Town College. They're also students of those universities, and those students have paid money to be able to earn college credit. So we started that, and we started with April 1st, yesterday, going live. So one of the options that we have for our staff is they can either do live lessons or they can do recorded lessons. We felt that it was very important to be responsive to the needs of our teachers at home as well. One teacher, she has 3 children under the age of 5 with a husband who also is a teacher. We realized that she was not going to be able to be live every day. So one of the things I did is I put together a quick schedule that mimicked our educational day. One, to provide some structure for kids and some parents, but also so that all of our live lessons were following, it's kind of our 2-hour delay schedule. Our live lessons were following a schedule so that I didn't have multiple teachers giving live lessons and kids not knowing which one to be part of. So we put that schedule together, and essentially what we are expecting from our teachers each day is they do a video lesson. It can be a recorded lesson, it can be a live lesson, but I want a video every day from our staff so our kids can see our teachers and interact with them if they need to in a live setting, or if they can't do it, it's recorded and posted on their Schoology page. With that, there is then a direct instruction piece, there's some independent practice, and then every day I'm asking our teachers to have our students submit a check for understanding. That can be a formative assessment, it can be a quiz, it can be an essay, it can be whatever they feel is appropriate for where their scope and sequence is with regards to moving forward. The other part that I've asked our teachers to do, and not to publish this, is to really go through between now and the end of the school year similar to what Robert talked about, meat and potatoes. We call it, what are those essential learnings that our teachers need to get through between now and the end of the year? Similar to Ken and others, I've created a pickup box outside of my house, and kids have been coming and picking up laptops and chargers, and we've been delivering devices to student homes who need them. I think we've given out close to 4,000 meals since we started this at our district. Medication pickup, that has happened as well. But really the fly in the ointment right now and the elephant in the room is the grading piece. Mm-hmm. So we are looking hard at that, because again, a high school kid, that's the question they're asking. Do I have to do this? Is this mandatory? What if I don't? So my standard response to everybody has been, we are assessing your progress on a daily basis. However, at this time, traditional grading practices are currently not being utilized. So we are talking pass fail, we're talking high pass, low pass. We're having a hard time right now wrestling with how can you fail a kid if they don't have access? So do you have but I also want to incentivize our students who are getting on and logging in and engaging and doing the work, not only for their momentum, but also then to give value to what our teaching staff is putting together. From a supervision standpoint, myself and my 2 assistant principals, we have split up our teaching staff, and we are going on Schoology pages and just taking a look at what teachers are doing and affirming, but also having to reach out to some teachers that, hey, here's what we talked about. I'm not seeing that yet. What do you need from me? And I'm sure the others, our teachers who are great teachers in the classroom are doing a great job online. Those that needed, some prodding when they were in the classroom need prodding online. So supervision in these times are also challenging. So we have also committed to 3 hours a day for a high school student, and all of our teachers will do 2 hours of office, 2 hours of office hours per day, and they can be during their planning period in the schedule, but also if need be, they can do it in the evening when it's better for them and their family dynamic. They just have to make sure that that's posted on their Schoology page. So it's a challenging time, unprecedented, and I just appreciate all the feedback and all the collaborating that we've done at the principal level, and would welcome any questions. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Scott, for that overview. So we're going to unmute all of them and kind of go to some questions, and anybody can jump in on those questions. But hopefully for 150 or so people that are on, you can see there are a number of great ideas here just with 5 panel members. And while we're talking about this, before we get into the questions, next Thursday, we hope to do another webinar, but not on continuity of education, is really, and some of these gentlemen talked about this today, is the mental aspects of both teachers and students and how we continue to support, that culture as well. So if anybody on the call today wants to participate in a panel like this, we can only do about 4 or 5 people in the time that we have. I already have a middle school people, but I could use some elementary and secondary people on that topic. You can just email me directly at Healey, Healey, at paprinciples.org if you'd like to be considered for next week's panel on mental health, culture, supporting teachers, and supporting students. All right, so I'm gonna turn to Stephanie over there at the computer and ask her to read the question, and we'll go from there. Steph?
We discussed grading concerns.
You have to talk into the mic.
Will you discuss grading concerns and resolutions at this time?
Can you repeat the question again?
Will you discuss grading concerns and resolutions at this time?
Okay, so other people are looking at grading, and other resolutions, like some of you said, pass, fail, high pass, low pass, things like that going forward, okay?
Enrichment and review and planned instruction in one grade level, does this include all students, or can IEP students in a grade level do enrichment and review and regular ed do planned instruction?
So that's, I don't know if you heard that question, but that question that came through, somebody was asking, at a particular grade level, if regular education students are doing planned instruction, for example, can special ed students do enrichment in review or vice versa? The answer to that is no. That at a particular grade level from the U.S. Department of Education guidelines, they specifically suggest that whatever you're offering to regular ed students, you must also offer to special ed students, knowing full well that there has to be some other accommodations and things like that. But you can't do less for one group than you do for the other.
This question is specifically for Brian. Are you having parents return those physical packets for teachers to review, look over?
Brian, did you hear the question?
I did. Yeah, it's a great question. The best way I can answer that is we at that time are staying away from the word require. So although we were not requiring those, several of there's been interaction via email and now Google Classroom between students and teachers at a K-6 level. And although we're not requiring it, we are providing feedback. So that's kind of how we're addressing that.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Is there a recommendation from PDE on the number of hours for daily instruction at elementary, middle, and high school levels?
So that question is, were there any particular guidelines from PDE on the amount of time for the planned instruction per level? I have not seen that in writing. I don't know if anybody on our panel has seen that. I think they came up with their hours on their own right now as a district push out. But so far in any PDE writings that I've seen is that planned instruction, they defined what planned instruction was, but they left that up to the local decision and local school district to determine what that would look like. However, having said that though, also each school and each district has to submit a plan for continuity of education. So I think if they saw something that people were going to do planned instruction, they're only going to do it for a half an hour, I think they would be in contact with that school. Correct me if I'm wrong, panel members, if you have anything else to add to that one.
No, we weren't given any specific guidance. We looked at our breakdown as what we thought would be good for children at that level. That, what's going to be a challenge, what's going to be acceptable. And as we communicated with parents too, those expectations may change. If we are seeing as we're going on that our students are doing a phenomenal job with 2 hours at one level, we might then look to up that to maybe add a half an hour worth of work. So maybe by the end of May, if we're still in this situation, students are doing up to 3.5 hours of work. But our thought was we want to start slow and manageable and build up from there.
Anybody else? How did you determine that? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, and Palmyra, we went on advice from our solicitor, spent a lot of time talking to them about what our plan was, and they gave us guidance on what would be reasonable for each student.
Okay. All right, next question.
What about attendance for students who do not have access to online learning? Those logging onto Google Classroom can be tracked. Does PDE have any recommendations?
So those of you doing attendance, any advice on that with people logging in? What are you doing about that?
I believe the guidance we saw through our solicitor was if we're going to be doing online learning as our new platform, online learning has to be available to every student in the district or at that grade level. So if a family doesn't have access to that, that's then our responsibility to get that family access, be it through a hotspot or a device. And if we can't provide that to a family and we can't accurately track their attendance, then we have problems with our plan. So I think if that's going to be your plan, you have to be able to provide that to every student and family.
Yep.
And I think if I'm correct, Dr. Healey, it can't even just be like if you have 4 kids in your family and we give you 1 laptop, that doesn't work. We've got to give you a laptop for every student.
Yeah, that's correct. And I said this last week, and this is a challenge that we're going to have to face with the continuity of education, especially online, as we think about, every county right now in Pennsylvania with the stay at home. We have a lot of parents at home right now, some working, and everybody's trying to get on the internet. They're doing work, the kids have to do work, and everybody's fighting for that bandwidth right now, and people are getting bumped off. So that's another issue that we're going to face, not so much this week, but after Easter, as most districts ramp up to do more starting after the Easter holiday, I think we're going to see that bandwidth going to be a problem in some areas and in some homes, quite frankly.
And to that point, Dr. Healey, one thing I neglected to mention in my part is we are doing no live lessons. Every lesson that our teacher is creating is something recorded that a kid can watch when they're free. So I know some areas are looking at, if your second period class meets at this time, you're doing a Zoom session at this time. We as a district opted against that for that very concern. We don't know when kids are going to be able to log in. So we're allowing optional Zoom sessions for students, but the actual lesson is recorded that a student can access at any point in time.
Yeah, that's a great point. You heard Scott mention that as well, as about recorded lessons and live lessons. And so as you think about that, I think we need to think about that as we're going forward with the live lessons, that some students and some households, quite frankly, can be struggling with that. Okay.
We decided at Palmyra, we are not tracking attendance.
Mm-hmm.
We are more concerned with making sure that all of our students are okay. So what we are doing is we've created a teacher created this and came up with this idea. We're going to have a weekly Google Doc that teachers have access to, and they are going to put students in there who they've not heard from, or kids who've just not engaged so far. So then we can reach out through our guidance department and say, hey, what's going on? What do you need? Do you have access? Just to try to do it that way. But I think tracking attendance right now, it's hard enough when we're in school to do that. Trying to do that now and figuring out where kids are. Yeah, so we're not worried about that. We just want to make sure kids are okay. And if there's a service or help we need to provide them, we want to make sure that we're doing that.
Right. Okay.
And at Canberra Heights, we do have a few students who have opted for the packets rather than the online learning. And if we get the packets done and they're completed, I mean, we're kind of tracking attendance the way Scott is, just trying to reach out to people who have not had any contact with our teachers. But, you know, whether they do those packets in the first 48 hours that they have them, that's satisfactory. There's no need for them to divvy up their work so that they have something to do every day for attendance purposes, we don't feel.
Right. Okay.
Is the consensus to omit finals for the year?
Is what?
The consensus to omit finals for the year.
Yeah, anybody talking about finals right now?
That's the least of my concerns.
Yeah, I
Not
bet.
yet. Not
bet.
yet.
So we'll say stay tuned for that one, right?
We did say no assessments. We're not giving any tests or anything like that, but we haven't even looked at finals.
Right.
We have a college-style open campus finals week at Canberra
Mm-hmm.
Heights, and our finals are actually 20% of our overall grade. We're going to, even if we would be back, we're going to eliminate that because if we would be back, we would want that instructional time rather than just an open campus setting for final exams.
Yeah. Great response. Thanks, Ken.
When it comes to the supervision of teachers, has anything been determined in regards to teacher evaluations?
No, so I will say no to that point. That's been a question that we certainly have asked PDE, that teachers have been asking and principals been asking. But you probably know that since there are not going to be any PSSAs, right? So that cannot be a part of the teacher evaluation because they're gone away for next year. So how they will look at that teacher evaluation, I can only surmise that we would be looking at the Danielson side to be more weighted than we would look at that building level score going forward. That would be the way to rectify that. How we resolve supervising teachers and evaluating teachers for the rest of this school year, because a lot of those need to be completed yet, is still up in the air. I heard Scott talk a little bit about that, their principals and assistant principals are actually going online and looking at what teachers are posting. That's one creative way to keep in touch with teachers and to really to look at, are they doing what the expectation is right now? And I think that's all we can ask for. Are you meeting the expectation of the district and the continuity of education plan right now? And that's all that we can hope for at this point. But yeah, stay tuned for that, the answer to that one from PDE.
Dr. Healey, could I ask you a follow-up question related? Sure. For those teachers who have individual data because they teach a tested subject area, they don't get that data until there's a consecutive 3-year window.
Correct.
Will it break everybody's 3-year window, or will there just be a 1-year gap that will be kind of allowed? Have you heard anything about that?
We have not heard anything about that. That's a great question. That's also one that we've asked about. What about the 3-year window kind of going forward? My only guess would be they would do the same thing like they did with the moratorium on Act 48 and Act 45 and extend it another year to make that window. That would kind of make sense, but we'll see as we go forward.
Thank you.
How are you addressing?
I'm sorry. I have a question, just with regards to the governor yesterday alluded a little bit to moving kids on to the next grade,
Right.
graduating seniors. What are your thoughts about that as that kind of add? And can we? I know PDE is supposed to be coming out tomorrow with some guidance.
Yeah.
Was that kind of a preempt of that?
So that's I was wondering when that question was going to come up. So we talked about this on my 10 o'clock call with the other ed orgs. What the governor was doing yesterday was actually responding to a question from the field. And he kind of did put that out there that everybody would just be moved on to the next grade. And we said, was that his way of saying now that school will not be in session for the rest of the year? So this morning, I will tell you, we talked about that, and we are going to make a request to PDE and the governor's office. If that's what he means, can you please say that? The reason for that is, and one big reason is, not only for those students, but what about our seniors and what about graduation? We need to start thinking about what creatively we can do for that ceremony. How's that going to happen? And I think, as you heard, there's a lot of creativity going on right now, but it takes a lot of planning for graduation and for those students, and what can we do in school districts. So if school's not going to be in session, we'd like to know that. I don't know if he's going to be prepared to say that or not, but Scott, you're exactly right. That bomb was kind of dropped yesterday, and all of us as execs have been flooded with emails and questions about, wait a minute, what does he mean by that? Mm-hmm. So we're hoping to get some clarification. So thanks for asking that.
Sure.
All right, let's take 2 more.
Okay. How are you addressing the needs of the IEP, GIEP 504 students relating to FAPE?
Okay, so the question is how are you addressing those? Again, there's been some guidance from the U.S. Department of Education. They've acknowledged that, that you may not be able to do everything in a student's IEP depending on their disability or their accommodation, but you have to make a good faith effort, and you also have to call the parents or be in contact with them. Actually, there's a written notice right now that has to go out to every student that has an IEP from the school indicating how are you providing FAPE. That's in the law that came out. So there's no way around that. You've heard some of our panel members talking about, I forget which one of them, it might've been Brian's, that they've called every single parent. I forget which one of you talked about that. They called every single parent that had an IEP indicating, here's what's coming home. What does your student need? All those types of things. So you have to do everything in your power to be communicating with those parents for those IEPs. There's really no wiggle room around that.
Yeah, and I would really recommend, as I said, we've done a lot of communication with those families. We've met as a special ed department, building-wide, district-wide, at least 2 or 3 times to talk through concerns of how will I address this SDI, how will I address that SDI, we really think the office hours are a great way for the special ed teachers to do check-in and check-outs for students, provide them some additional support. And what we're also looking at is if a student has para support in a class, one of the things we're doing is when the teacher creates their recorded lesson, they're creating with the special ed teacher little supplementary notes that can be provided to a learning support student. So again, it's not providing that para support, but it's providing something that's there. So I think a lot of talking through, and I think a lot of it really leans on relationships, having that good relationship with those special education families, and it being that back and forth, if they have a concern, being timely and addressing it. And that's gonna, because it is gonna be a challenge, and it is gonna be hard for a lot of our students who, struggle brick and mortar to now do this online.
Yeah, so I just want to add to that, the question that we have in relationship to FAPE and contacting the parents. And I know some districts are talking about this and doing this is, do you provide a NOREP, a new NOREP to the parents for the IEP? Now, remember, a NOREP is for educational placement. You're not changing their educational placement. So a lot of people are saying, no, don't issue a NOREP. And by the way, some parents are not going to sign the NOREP anyhow. And then what are you going to get into, right? So really the law and the guidelines just say that you need to contact in written form as well to the parents to talk about what that instruction is going to be. Will you have to reopen the IEP at some point when they return to school? Absolutely. Will there be some extended school year, some issues? Absolutely. Will there be some compensatory education? Absolutely, for certain students. But you have to make that good faith effort going forward.
Dr. Healey, I just wanted to add really quickly, I couldn't agree more. It all comes down to communication and relationships. Putting minimal requirements of once a week to touch base with all those families in these uncharted times is just, I think, a really great idea. So I just, when it comes down to students with these needs, and there's so many questions out there, we're getting bombarded daily with life skills, and what about mental health and school-based behavioral health and teleconferencing and teletherapy. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And the final piece, make sure you, I highly recommend you to either require or come up with a form to that allows for every teacher to document what they're doing. You're probably doing so much amazing work, but let's not forget the document so we don't go back and say, well, I did that, but I don't have it written down. So.
Right. And I will say there, either guidelines say you have to, contact the parents in written form. There's no template for that out of PDE right now. It's, I think every district is making that up at their point. There's been some guidelines that we've put out on our website about what should be included in that written notice. So you can check out our website for that as well. So we'll take one more because we're coming out to our hour for our webinar.
If you're supplying packets that match the online learning, are you still mandated to provide internet devices to that student?
Anybody have a response for that one?
I'll say we have some packets that mirror that online learning, but there are just a handful of households that we're not providing internet access for or devices for at this time.
Dr. Healey,
they haven't pursued it anymore. They've been satisfied with what we've been offering.
Yeah.
I think that would depend on if you're under the enrichment and review
Right.
versus the planned instruction. I think that would really differentiate between how you'd answer that question.
Yeah. All right. So, we are certainly in unprecedented times right now, and, we're all in this together, and we're all trying to make sense of what's going on. So I can't thank Brian, Rob, Ken, and Scott enough for sharing, what they're doing right now, which could change tomorrow, as as we, weave through what's going to be happening for the rest of this school year. But I think there were a lot of great ideas here this morning that you gentlemen shared, and I greatly appreciate that. I hope people on the chat and, as a part of this webinar, if you have some additional questions, you can email one of these gentlemen. We are going to be recording the webinar and posting that link up as well. I hope also that you'll join us if we are able to continue to offer the Thursday webinars, is to tune in next Thursday at 11:30. We'll send out a new link. That one's going to be the same type of thing that we did this week, with some principals talking about mental health, supporting their staff, supporting their students in that sense of community. And finally, for me, to all of you that are listening across the state of Pennsylvania, stay safe and stay healthy for all of you and all of your families. And thank you so much for all you do. There's not been a time that I can remember in my career where we've had this intense work that we all had to come together and collaborate on. And that's the beauty. If there's one positive thing, is that collaboration that's happening with our staffs and our administrators, and even quite frankly, on my level with our educational organizations, trying to come out at one voice on how we can support everyone and our students across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Yes.